Hello. Today we are going to talk about Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe. Now, Zimbabwe is currently facing economic sanctions imposed by the West, and then we have been, conditioned to believe that these sanctions were actually imposed after Robert Gabriel Mugabe took land from the whites, which is not correct. So today I want to discuss some of the issues of Zimbabwe, why Zimbabwe end up in these messes. Because there is this general speculation that says that many people in Zimbabwe are suffering because of the sanction imposed by the West. Yes, they are suffering because of partly, not really. Okay, let me tell you the story why Zimbabwe is in the messes. Now you'll remember that Zimbabwe, unlike South Africa, it was owned by what you call South Africa mining company. So Zimbabwe is the country that was owned by South African mining company. So before that, as you know, that Cecil John Rhodes, whom the name Rhodesia come from, he was actually the owner of Zimbabwe. Before that, the portion of Matabeleland was under Botswana, tribe known as Bakalaka. 10 portion of Matabeleland, I think it's called Tate. If you remember the concept, Tate land concessions. Land concession of Tate land concession was that Muzilikazi, who could not read and write, he gave concession to the British that they'll mine a particular place in Matabeleland. It's called that. It has to do with like a Tate land. It's called Tate concessions, where Botswana people have lost some parts of Matabeleland, especially Bakalaka. Now the problem started before that. Didn't start before when Mzilikazi arrived, and then he give them permission. So the Rhodesian come in. So Rhodesian wanted to combine 3 countries, Malawi, Zambia, and as well as Zimbabwe, to be one country under the so-called Federation of Rhodesia and Nyasaland. As you know, that Malawi was called Nyasaland, whereas Zambia was called country were combined in the same thing. We're not part of South Africa. So Zimbabwe was never part of this, unlike Botswana and Lesotho and Namibia, which were actually administered from Cape Colony. Botswana was administered from Cape Colony as well as Namibia. So Zimbabwe was never like that. That's a country that was colonized by South African mining companies. After there was agreement with the Lobengula, who could not, Lobengula could not read and write, but the British claimed that the land, actually, they got mineral rights to explore Zimbabwe. So the place like Matabeleland, the Bulawayo, was actually later used by Witwaters's labor Winla, Witwaters's labor association, where it uses recruitment centers. So in the place like Matabeleland, you find people from Zambia, Botembo, you find the likes of the Chuma, this kind of Zambian name in Matabeleland. You find Swazi, Masuku, you find Bondlovu. These are the people that were taken from different areas. We also have, whereas the indigenous of Matabeleland were taken away from Zimbabwe. For instance, people end up in South Africa. So the Shona people that we call them Mashona are not indigenous from Zimbabwe. The word Mashona it's opposite of Makalanga. Makalaka, which is people of the sun. The opposite of Makalaka is Mashona, which was created by Professor Clement Duke. It does not exist. Nobody is a Shona. So what happened is that the identity of Mashona was created because previously the owner of Zimbabwe, South African mining company that was owning Matabeleland, they wanted Zimbabwe to be ruled by the Sothos. So Zimbabwe was supposed to be ruled by Sothos. That's why we've got Kenneth Banana. Kenneth Banana was a Methodist from small tribe of Basotho people that are similar to Lozis. The first president of Zimbabwe was Kenneth Banana. So because of the Shonas, the Sotho were not organized to a point where they can rule themselves. The British identify Mugabe. Mugabe looked like Malawi person, just like Kenneth Kaunda. Kenneth Kaunda worked with British. Yes, he was the one who supplied British people with Southern Rhodesia. He was the one who supplied British with the so-called labor to work in the mining. And then some of these people are still there, are still scattered in Matabeleland. And then some of them, I'll return back to the issue of the Zimbabwe politics. I want to show you what happened. So after Lobengule gave permission for South African British company to explore mineral mining within even Tate land concessions, which is actually was a Botswana land, which is Matabeleland. They used to live in Zambia, the Zambia called Barotse land. The word Barotse is a people of pumpkin. Those are Botswana people. And then you move to Shashe rivers. Shashe, it's Sibirwa. Shashe, it's a plant. And that's why you find that in Matabeleland there are rivers like Mpuyeng River, we have got Shashe River, Ramokhwebana. These are Tswana names in Matabeleland. So the people that were removed there were Sotho Tswana people by actually British, and they give Shona people who are actually come from Katanga. So the word Katanga in Congo come from the Shona word. Katanga meaning place of the beginning. Kutanga in Shona. Unotanga, Utanga meaning Shona. Some of the Shona people come from the place known as Tanganyika. Nyika ya Utanga. It's a Shona. The word Tanganyika come from the Shona, Mashona word. The so-called Mashona word. It's called Tanganyika, meaning the land where things begin. Kutanganyika. It's a Shona terms. So today, many Shona people are found in Kenya. Kenya has a high rate of numbers of the Shona people who are stateless. Few of them are in Zambia. Whereas some of them end up in South Africa because of economic hardship. But many people argue that basically the identity of the Shona, which was created by British, had impact on the economic woo of Zimbabwe. Because what happened is that after British experiment, the experiment Kenneth Banana to become, they realized that it's not going to work. So they got somebody that knew identity of Shona to run away. So if you remember that Mugabe is from Malawi, he looked like a Malawian person. So Zimbabwe is run by migrants. It's not run by people from Zimbabwe. The indigenous people of Zimbabwe are not there. Those are the new identities. Matebele land, Mashona land, they are new identities in Africa that are found in Zimbabwe. So where did the problem of Zimbabwe come from? It does not come from it does not come from Mugabe taking land. No, it's a failed state. Zimbabwe became a failed state when the Federation of Rhodesia in Zambia and Zimbabwe to form a countries, and that Federation of Rhodesia failed. And then when it failed, there was a new republic that was coming from Rhodesia. Rhodesian fail was defeated by Zimbabwean Zanla and Zapo guerrilla fail. But again, after the Zimbabwe ZANU and they took over, again Zimbabwe failed again under the new leadership. Now the question, why did it fail? Zimbabwe was not intended to be a state. It has never been. It was intended to be a labor system where black people will be recruited in Matabeleland. That's why you find that those cities like Bobulawayo, Makokoba Township in Zimbabwe, they are all their township. Not all, they are closer to Johannesburg. So those people were recruitment centers where railway was built via Botswana to recruit those people who come from Southern Rhodesia, Northern Rhodesia, and Katanga to come and work in the mining town of South Africa. And then when they are ill and die, they were deported back. So the point I'm trying to make here is that many people are telling us that Lancaster Agreement was a foundation of the Zimbabwean problem. No, Zimbabwean problem are historical. It was not intended to be a country. It was designed as a recruitment centers for labor people to go to work into different states. I say there are a lot of Zimbabwe. Yes, there are Zimbabwe in Francistown. There are Manyika in Francistown. There's Zulu in the Francistown. Even among Batawana, there are people who speak Zimbabwean there. So Zimbabwe is not a country. It was designed as a country. So in the 1994, when South Africa got independence, because the owner of South Africa realized that many South Africans will not work for free. What they did, Zimbabwe was collapsed. When Zimbabwe was collapsed, the cheap labor moved to South Africa. So what does it mean? It means that all products that are coming from Zimbabwe would be brought to South Africa and sold in the black market. Well, guess why who buy black market? South Africans. So most of the minerals, agricultural products like tobacco are basically smuggled into South Africa, are sold into the black market and the build economy, which means that there are a lot of minerals from Zimbabwe that are being legalized and become part of South African economy. So what I'm trying to say is that blaming the so-called Zimbabwe ZANU for the collapse of the Zimbabwean economy, it's not true. It's a design system whereby it was planned that Zimbabwe will never be a country, but what you call a land that will supply South African with cheap labors and resources. That's why you find that people don't know these things. There was this guy who wrote a book from Rhodesia and who once argued that Mugabe was a product of British. And Kenneth Kaunda, he was right, yes. They work with British, yes, they work with British. Now what happened is that, and when Zimbabwe economy started to suffer, Cecil John Rhodes people could get that mineral for free. So because Zimbabwe will take mineral and sell it to South Africa in the black market. So those who dream for Zimbabwean become economy of Zimbabwean being actually mended, they are just wasting the time. Zimbabwe will never recover. Because majority of the Zimbabweans live in Botswana, they live in South Africa. How are they going to recover it? They are going to recover because most of the resources are smuggled into South Africa and they become part of South Africa. So the point I'm trying to make here is that Lancaster Agreement was not the foundation of Zimbabwe problem. The beginning of the Zimbabwe problem come from when Cecil John Rhodes take over from Matabeleland. What they did, there was a so-called agreement with Lebongula who could not read and write, who was robbed. So that legacy of that agreement, actually it has impact of Zimbabwe economy. However, many people are dreaming that maybe Zimbabwe will recover. Zimbabwe won't recover, not now. It will take some years. Because people always say like, no, but if you look at Zimbabwe, Zimbabwe has a beautiful city than Angola. There are a lot of beautiful cities in Zimbabwe that are than Mozambique and Botswana. Zimbabwe has a very good infrastructure, but the thing is that it was not designed as a country. It was designed as a labor system to supply neighboring country with the labors. They never intended it to like people will go to live nice life in Zimbabwe. So what you see in Zimbabwe, large influence of Zimbabwe running to South Africa, it's a product of design. There are three governments that failed in Zimbabwe. The first one was when